How do we want her to squat? That's fine. However she squats. That's the first squat. All right, we just want to see what her strategy is. Okay? Now, if I wanted to really zone this in and do a functional screening test, how are we going to have her squat? The balance squat. What is a balance squat?
Single leg stand.
We're looking for the alignment of the trunk and the shin. And she could have her arms like this, or straight up over the head like this. So let's do arms straight over your head as you squat. Okay, and pause. Okay, so now, what am I looking for? Come back up.
And give.
Active equals passive, which is what? Benchmark, which is 70 degrees. Did she reach 70 degrees?
Yes.
Did she, what's the second thing we're looking for? Parallel spine, but what's the second category of gives? Gives, deviations, or compensations. So do we see gives, deviations, or compensations? A little bit, but they're lumbar, so don't go all the way down. So start to go. Okay. So right now we're getting a hip flexion give, so technically that's a lower extremity give, but our patient has knee pain. Give me a little valgus. That's our give. All right? We just gave her a valgus give, and then say ow.
Ow.
Okay, there's her pain. All right, come back up. All right? So if her pain came, just like we did with push-ups, if the pain came about with lifting, we could do a deloaded squat like this, non-lifting squat, so we can play around without irritating things too much. All right? If she had a pain with even doing the balance squat, we might stop before the pain, but when we do see a give, so we can play. And playing means we want her to do several squats, but we don't want to aggravate the symptoms, but we also want to be able to get a comparable sign. What do I mean by a comparable sign? What is the comparable sign, though? What does that mean?
Is that
Do one movement, see the give, or whatever it is, correct it, and see if it improves.
Exactly. So it could be pain, whatever induces the pain, or it could be the give. In other words, I need a sign, or a symptom, which is pain, that I can compare before and after I do something. That's what a comparable sign is. That's Maitland terminology. So right now, the valgus give, the one that we're taking, is the comparable sign. So right at about 48 degrees, give me a valgus give. Perfect. All right, so that's our comparable sign. She has a valgus give. Come back up. So now on anywhere, now what's my next step? Apply, well, no, don't say apply the method. All right. So what is the thing that you're doing? Driver assessment. I am assessing the regional interdependence. That's what you say. Okay. Now, how do you do that? External stabilization, biomechanical correction. Where am I going to apply it? Lumbopelvic. Okay. So I come over here. I say I'm going to give you some stability right at your pelvis. I'm going to give some pressure through here. Is that okay? Okay. I come in. My hands are along the iliac crest. My thumbs are right at PSIS. I do a slight posterior rotation of the innominate, posterior compression. I dance with the joint. Let the weight shift happen. Go ahead. And valgus give. What happened? Still there. Now what? I would do a biomechanical correction, but this isn't the semester for that, so I move on. Okay, that's MS2. So what's next? Hip. Okay, I'm going to provide some stability to the hip. So I'm going to put my hand on your sit bone here and in the front of your hip. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So over here, feel how I have my hand in the back. And coming here, I'm just giving a little pressure between my hands just to give you a little lift here. And now, dance with the joint. As you come down, sit back into my hand and valgus give. What happened? Nothing. What's next? Biomechanical correction. We're going to do it here today. You don't do it on the practical. You do it on capstone. So essentially what I'm doing right now is exactly what you do on capstone. Okay? So, biomechanical correction of the hip. How is that different?
on the acetabulum and at the groin?
You're not on the ischial tube. I am on the back of the acetabulum. Yes, it's more forceful, but we don't like that language. All right? It is more intentional. I am going to do a more aggressive correction. Okay? So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to put my hand on the front and the back. I'm going to give you a little more support. I am having the intention of actually centering the head of the femur in the socket. I'm pushing posteriorly. I'm giving some support to the posterior part of the acetabulum. You okay with that pressure? Okay, and now go ahead and squat. And, oh, okay, good.
Oh.
Come back up. Okay, what happened? Nothing. What's next? Knee. What am I going to do? I am going to provide external stabilization to the knee. My goal is to enhance the inner core system, so VMO and popliteus. So I'm coming in here. I'm going to hug the knee. I'm going to provide some support, and I'm just going to give a little lift. So it's like I'm doing a knee brace. And you know the knee braces have little cutouts for the patella? So allow for a space of the patella. You can do a design, or you can just keep your fingers off the patella.
You're going like in and sandwiching.
Yep, I'm coming like this. I'm supporting the tibia and the femur, all right, the condyles. And then I'm giving a little lift, but feel what am I doing?
It's like lifting up.
I'm lifting up and,
Compressing.
yeah, a little bit of compression, but
Are you trying to bring it
I was
back?
pushing out.
I'm pushing out. I'm bringing her out of that valgus. So I'm doing the job of the local muscles right here. Okay? And now start to squat. And come back up. How'd that look?
Better.
Nice. Okay? Notice I gave her a little marker. All right? For a really big person, don't do that. You don't want them to fall on you. But what you can do, if you feel confident in your patient, you can say, okay, come down. And as she's coming down, look, I can slow her down. Right? See my shoulder? Now come back up. So I can guide her a little bit. Right? So I'm giving the support to try and see if that helps. Did that help?
Yes.
Yes. What's next?
Biomechanical correction.
Cueing. Why?
Oh, that's right. Stabilization works.
Does external stabilization work? Now here is the clinical reasoning application of what we're affectionately calling the method. And remember, the method was just the title of that realm where you find something and you want to be able to play around. So we're following a series of steps to kind of lead us into different directions. So I know that if I wake up the musculature here, it helps her squat. It prevents the knee valgus give. I love it. So now I'm going to cue you here. I want you to bend the knee a little bit. Now I want you to keep this muscle as if you're still bending the knee, but now you're also going to straighten the knee. So it's like you're trying to bend and straighten the knee all at the same time. And now just bring your knee out with me. There you go. Now keep that as if you're bending and straightening the knee at the same time, and go ahead and squat. Ooh, oh, that's good. Actually worked pretty well. All right, so this one works really well with a crunchy arthritic knee. Of all the cues that I'm teaching you, you'll have the least success with this one, and I know that. All right, but when you get that really crunchy knee, or sometimes people have laxity from post ACL laxity, they can find this. Trying to wake up the stabilizers of the knee is very nuanced, but once you do wake them up, it does make a difference. So I'm keeping it in the mix because it's part of your overall clinical reasoning. So your cue is a weird one. I know you're all going to think it's weird, but you're going to say bend the knee slightly and keep the hamstrings on. Keep bending the knee and straighten the knee all at the same time. We are trying to induce a co-contraction. And then to give a little extra, we're going to say just bring this knee out a little bit. Now they will use the hip to do it a little, but by doing it at the knee, you're stimulating the medial musculature, the VMO and the popliteus, the support right here.
Does it simulate the foot?
Yes,
Okay.
because the lower extremity is an entire kinetic chain, and there is a functional movement pattern that links posterior tib, adductors, VMO, deep glute. So they all work in a functional chain. But if there's a weak link along the chain and you simply have them engage the whole chain, the weak link doesn't join the party. So I am going right at the weak link to help it to join the party, and then the whole chain comes on. Does that make sense? Yep, go Bernie.
Bend and straighten, that's for that co-contraction you're trying to get?
I'm sorry, say again?
When you're telling her, like, cueing her to bend and straighten the knee at the same time, that's that co-contraction you're trying to get?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Because the knee, like it helped out the knee valgus, that's why you didn't go to the foot, right? But
Correct. So whenever, at every joint, I am going to do external stabilization and biomechanical correction. Regardless of the findings, I will do both. But if external stabilization helps, I want to follow it up with a cue because I want to know if I can go in a motor control direction. If biomechanical correction helps, I know I'm doing a joint assessment, period. I might actually still try cueing there to see if I can get them to get some motor control enhancement, but I already know that I'm doing a joint breakout. Okay?
Kind of backtracking. Let's say that the patient doesn't get to the benchmark, but it's because of pain. Do we still do a driver assessment?
Yes.
Okay.
But you don't go to the benchmark, you stop where the pain is or just before the pain. Okay?
Now, would like an external stable or biomechanical correction, could that take away the pain or?
That's the hope. Now, why would external stabilization or biomechanical correction take away someone's pain?
I mean, perhaps they don't know what that feeling is. I mean, or they don't know how to activate it, so I,
What would happen in their body? So, along those lines, what would be happening in the body to take away their pain?
You're waking up the local musculature.
You're waking up the local muscle, so those are both correct answers, but what is physically happening in their body? No, you can't answer. Physically happening in their body, what, no, don't answer.
Brain.
Don't answer. What is physically happening in their body to stop their pain?
Their brain. Nerves.
These are all correct answers, but what is physically happening in their body? What's that? What is that happening or is it not happening?
Prevention.
Yeah, you're preventing the shearing, right? So you're waking up the nervous system, you're waking up the local muscle system, and the result is the shearing stops. If the shearing stops and the shearing is the reason for their pain, you're on it. So that person, go ahead, squat and say ow at 47 degrees.
Ow.
Okay, come back up. I come in, and now don't say ow and go down to 70. Ooh. She reached her benchmark and no pain. Therefore, we got past the give. That is a successful application of external stabilization. Get it? Okay. So that would be the cueing follow-up. Now, for biomechanical correction of the knee, when the knee bends, what needs to happen at the knee?
Unlock.
Unlock. What is unlocking?
Popliteus.
General external.
Oh.
Posterior.
Internal rotation is unlocking the tibia.
So when you bend, we need internal rotation of the tibia, which is external rotation of the femur. This is closed chain, so who is the dominating moving bone?
Femur.
The femur. So I am going to stabilize the tibia, and then as you squat, I am going to externally rotate the femur. Go. And we want to know if that helps. Okay? Stabilize the tibia, externally rotate the femur. If we were open chain, have a seat. If we were open chain to bend the knee, okay, I would internally rotate the tibia. Go ahead and bend the knee. I would internally rotate the tibia in order to help. Okay? Because we're going into flexion. Come back up. What if the pain happened on extension? What if, go down 70, you're fine, come up, say ow.
Ow.
That is the pain happening during extension. What kind of biomechanical correction can I do?
External stabilization of the tibia.
Internal rotation of the femur. It could be external rotation of the tibia, but it's closed chain, so we're going to do it at the femur. Okay, squat. Okay, and now as you come up, stabilize the tibia, internally rotate the femur. Okay? Another one is I'm laterally gliding the femur. Stabilizing the tibia, I'm going to laterally glide the femur. This is similar to what we did at the elbow. Now squat and go all the way down. Ooh, come up. Actually, I don't know. So that we'll pretend that worked. That her knee doesn't click really loud. So this is a lateral glide of the femur. We could also do a medial glide of the femur. Okay, go. I think you like this one better.
I felt something weird.
You didn't like it. All right, so you don't like the lateral glide. That means there's a little too much
Stabilizing
play.
always the tibia, and then that's always your stabilizing.
That's true. Yeah, in closed chain. I didn't even think of that until now. Yeah, so in closed chain, we're stabilizing the tibia and we're going to glide the femur. Either internal or external rotation based on the direction of bend or flexion or extension, or we're going to do medial or lateral glide, and that's just, you're just playing around trying to see which one helps. Yep, there's not a specific reason for it. It's a mulligan technique, and it really is just adjusting the tracking of the femur on tibia. Okay.
That's kind of my question. I was curious, why would you push medially,
Yeah, because
like giving into like almost like a valgus scale?
yeah, because you're not giving into a valgus. I can see that. I'm not doing this, right? I'm stabilizing and I'm doing this.
Just for track.
So I'm adjusting the tracking. So if someone has laxity where it's jumping the joint line laterally, they'll like the medial glide.
So it's just a trial and error.
It's just a trial and error. Yep. Okay? So that is external stabilization and cueing at the knee and biomechanical correction. Now, the foot and ankle. Have you pop your shoes off? What happens at the foot and ankle to allow a lower extremity or knee valgus give? Pronation. So what do you think you want to support? The arch. What happens in pronation? They flatten. What happens to the navicular? It drops. So I'm going to hook the navicular. and I'm gonna place my arm out here, because this is really easy. Okay, now I can just lean back, and this is gonna give the arch support. Okay, you okay with that pressure?
Yeah.
Okay, and squat. So, what did I do wrong?
Stabilize the
No, you could do that. That's the other way I'm going to show you. But what did I do wrong to throw her off balance?
You didn't go with
I didn't dance with the joint. I blocked her here, so she couldn't move through the ankle. So, all right, let's dance. Okay, so I still give myself the counter pressure here, but I'm allowing the motion. Because the goal is that I'm holding the navicular up without pulling her into inversion. Right? I don't want the first med head to leave the ground. I just want to support the arch. Okay, go again. The other way you can do this, support the arch this way and support the calcaneus. So essentially I'm doing what an orthosis would do. Okay, go. Okay.
You like that one better?
Do I?
I like that knee better.
Oh, you like that better. I was like, me? Oh, yeah,
You too, I
I'm not
guess.
really sold on one or the other. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Do you like that better? What did you think?
The knee.
Do you like the knee the best? Okay, yeah.
So I see that you're down there and stuff. Are we still doing a movement assessment? Like, where should we be looking, or is it more strictly like pain?
Well, you guys are in front of me, so I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would be looking at the body. It's a really good point. So I would be looking here, but, you know, in my peripheral vision, I'm seeing her valgus give. I'll go with that. All right, so as you squat, I'm assessing to see if that corrected her valgus give, if she gets to the 70-degree benchmark. Also, if there's a mirror in front of us, that's how I'm seeing what's going on. So with any of these corrections, you're looking to see if whatever the comparable sign was goes away. Okay? So I did external stabilization at the foot. Let's say that helped. What do?
Motor control.
Motor control. Now, there are a few different ways that we can do this. You're going to spread your toes. And now I want you to feel the contact of the ball, the big toe. As a matter of fact, you can pronate a little to feel the ball of the big toe. Now supinate a little bit to feel the ball of the little toe. So you have contact on the ball of the first med head, and you have contact of the ball of the fifth med head. Got it? Now, what I want you to do is keep contact there, and you're going to roll your heel just to the outside, right there. Good. So you're still on the bottom of the heel, but you're biased to the outside of the heel. You feel that?
Mhm.
Do you see how that lifted your arch up?
Yeah.
What you just did is you put yourself into what's called the tripod stance. 1 point here, 1 point here, 1 point here. Your arch is nicely lifted. I want you to maintain that and now squat. All right, look pretty good. Did you like that?
Yeah. It
Ah.
felt the same as the motor.
Ooh. That's very telling, because the long muscles of the foot do help control the knee. So we're getting a good patterned activation there. What I just showed you was the cue to draw the foot into what's called short foot. You are lifting the arch and maintaining the arch. If you just put your foot, you don't have to take your shoe off, but you can. If you pronate, what happens is your toes go out long. And when you supinate, the toes draw back in like this. That's why they call it short foot. Now, what is this in the hand? What muscle does this motion in the hand? Lumbricals. So if the hands and feet are analogous, which they are, what muscle does that? Lumbricals. That's why the intrinsics, which are the interossei and lumbricals, are the local stabilizers. So we just activated them. Okay? That's cueing into tripod or short foot. Now that's an internal focus cue, and you have an entire class about the pros and cons of internal focus cueing, mainly presented as cons, and how external focus cueing is so much better. So let's do an external focus cueing. Imagine there's a string here, and you're in tripod, but the string is pulling you up towards the ceiling, connected to the ceiling, and that string is supporting your arch up as that string is connected to the ceiling, pulling, and now go ahead and squat. What do you think?
Oh, the same.
Oh, the same? You didn't like mine better? Just kidding. So one is an internal focus cue, and the other is an external focus cue. Okay? Both cues, and you use whichever one your patient responds to. Yeah.
What if the patient presents with, like, they're born with flat feet?
So flat feet is just a term,
Yeah.
and there's not really a good classification for what is flat feet. What I'm more concerned with, I don't care how people are born. I care about how they move.
Yeah.
All right. So if there's a structural deformity, that makes it more challenging, and they may need some help. But if someone's standing in front of me with very flexible feet, but the second they go to move, their arch lifts up, I don't care. All right. If when they're doing dynamic movement and they're not controlling that, they're not resupinating, and it's associated with an overall give, then I'm very concerned with that. Okay? Okay, so that is external stabilization of the foot, followed up by cueing. I gave you an example of short foot, of an internal focus cue, and I gave you an example of an external focus cue. All right? I will leave biomechanical corrections to the foot for Dr. Rush tomorrow. Okay? So let's do it.
So what about, we didn't do external stay for the ankle?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, because I didn't, for a long time I didn't do this in the class, and now we've decided to do it. So external stabilization at the ankle. I'm going to hug the distal tib fib joint, and I'm going to provide some literal compression, and I'm going to do a little distraction, like lifting towards the ceiling. That's, so let's not say distraction, let's say lift. I'm providing compression. You could interlock. Here, you okay with that pressure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and now I got to dance with the joint. Squat. What do you think?
I like that.
You like that?
Mhm.
Okay. So the reason we are putting this in here, and now we had full discussions and debates as to whether this is external stabilization or biomechanical correction, and I feel like we didn't really answer it fully. So poetic license. All right. Here I am doing literal external stabilization. So I'm doing a little more pressure than I do everywhere, but I'm going to give a little lift, which will allow me to call it my kind of external stabilization. The reason for this is someone has a high ankle sprain. They have excessive expansion of the mortise. And if you provide compression, all of a sudden they're able to find stability in the whole kinetic chain. So this is a significant test. You know, how you want to classify it, we can have discussions on that. But it is a good test, and you can follow it up with tape. So we are going to utilize it. The cueing is going to be the exact same as the foot, because I haven't figured out how to cue someone to squeeze their mortise together. All right? So the way we get stability is through the long muscles. So when we do short foot and we find stability, the long muscles of the foot, in other words, the long toe flexors, the posterior tib, the peronei, they come together to support the mortise. So we're just going to use the foot to try and get support to the mortise. Okay? All right. Grab a patient, PT patient. We'll do this all together, and then you'll spend a few minutes practicing on your own. I'll talk you through the external stabilization and biomechanical correction.